Local Party Activity, an online presentation of the FEC's Information Division. There are a variety of ways local party organizations can get involved in federal elections without having to register or file reports with the FEC. To do so, local parties need to remember two things. First, most activity related to federal elections must be paid for with federally permissible funds. And second, the amounts spent on federal activity must remain below the registration thresholds set forth in federal law. In this video, we'll talk about the limits and prohibitions that apply to federally permissible funds. Then, we'll identify certain grassroots activities that are exempt from the federal contribution limits. And finally, we'll let you know how much you can raise and spend on federal activity before you must register and file reports with the FEC. To start, it's important to understand that federal law defines the term contribution to include anything of value given for the purpose of influencing a federal election. All contributions must be made with federally permissible funds, subject to limits both on their source and amount. Let's begin by looking at prohibited sources of contributions. As a party committee, you cannot pay for federal activity using funds derived from corporations or labor organizations, federal government contractors, foreign nationals, or from contributions made in the name of another person. The foreign national ban actually applies to all of your activity, federal, state, or local. Federally permissible funds are also subject to the limits listed in this chart. As you can see, individuals may give up to $10,000 per calendar year to a state or local party. Some PACs can also give up to $10,000, but most will be limited to $5,000 per year. You'll also notice that state and local party committees share limits. That's because they are presumed to be affiliated with one another. That is, established, financed, maintained, or controlled by the same people. As a result, they are treated as if they were one committee for purposes of contribution limits. This rebuttable presumption applies to all registered party committees within a state. That's why some local parties choose to keep federal activity below the registration thresholds. So what are the federal registration thresholds? In any given year, a local party must register with the FEC if it raises more than $5,000 for federal elections, makes federal contributions or expenditures that exceed $1,000, or spends more than $5,000 on exempt party activity. Exempt party activity is the bread and butter of local parties. As we said before, it is exempt from the definition of contribution, and you can spend up to $5,000 per year on it before you must register. As always, only federally permissible funds may be used. There are three types of exempt party activity: the distribution of slate cards or sample ballots, the volunteer distribution of campaign materials, and voter drives for a party's presidential nominee. A state or local party committee may prepare and distribute a slate card, sample ballot, palm card, or other printed list naming candidates for any public office. The payments aren't considered contributions or expenditures as long as you meet three conditions. First, you must name at least 3 candidates running for election to any public office in your state. Second, you may not distribute the list through general public political advertising such as broadcast, newspaper, magazine, or billboard. And finally, you must limit the content to the identification of the candidates, the office or position the candidate holds or seeks, and party affiliation. As a local party committee, you may prepare and distribute campaign materials such as pins, bumper stickers, handbills, brochures, posters, and yard signs. This activity is exempt when conducted on behalf of the party's nominees for the general election. Materials are distributed by volunteers and not through any sort of public political advertising. And the materials are not purchased by the national party or using money transferred from the national committee for their purchase or funds designated for a particular federal candidate. Local party committees also may conduct voter registration or get out the vote drives on behalf of the party's presidential and vice presidential nominees, without the payments being considered contributions, as long as, once again, you rely on volunteers instead of public political advertising and avoid using funds designated for a particular candidate or transferred from the national committee. Remember, when your local party wants to engage in federal activity, whether you're making a contribution or conducting an exempt activity, you must use funds that comply with the federal limits and prohibitions. Review your banking records to ensure that you have sufficient federally permissible funds on hand to finance your activity. If you go over a registration threshold, you'll need to register your committee with the FEC within 10 days using FEC Form 1. You may do so electronically or on paper. After you register, you will report your receipts and disbursements either quarterly or monthly on FEC Form 3X. The Federal Election Commission is committed to encouraging compliance with the federal campaign finance laws. In addition to the information we provide on our website, we maintain a toll-free information line you can call for help without having to identify yourself. We respond within 5 business days to questions sent by email, and we conduct conferences throughout the country, host webinars on a variety of topics, and post e-learning videos, like this one, on our website and YouTube channel. We encourage you to make use of these resources and look forward to serving you.